the American Constitutional Republic, affairs of state in Oklahoma, the beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics, featuring your fine host, the Verbal Viking, Tommy McKay, here every Monday night as best we can, suffering all the technical glitches and the ghost in the machine. Here we are again with all the excitement. We've got a mayoral candidate on tonight, Frank Urbanic, fighting for our rights in Oklahoma City. And he is going to be joining us this evening for the entire hour. Over the last 2 weeks, I've had a couple of compilation videos that I put together, a best of 2021. I got one more coming. No response from Shane Jemison. We asked him, the vice chair, state GOP, to come join us at the end of last year, but no response back from Shane Jemison. GT Bynum, of course, never responds. And Donald Trump Jr., as you know, he was scheduled to be on the show last year. He doesn't respond, but worse than a no response is a declination of participation. And that is what Mayor Holt, incumbent Mayor David Holt in Oklahoma City, has declined an interview. Actually a debate. Oklahoma City mayoral candidates invited to a January 25 debate by Trey Savage, Wednesday, January 12th this year, from nondoc.com. All four candidates running for Oklahoma City mayor have been invited to participate in a debate set for 5:45 p.m. Tuesday, January 25th at the auditorium at the Douglas, 600 North High Avenue. Incumbent, here's your headline, kiddies. Incumbent Mayor David Holt has told NonDoc that he will not participate in the public discussion of issues facing the city. Although for some reason they'll allow him to attend if he changes his mind. Golly gosh, isn't it nice to be able to just not pay your fair share by showing up to be transparent about what you're going to do and how you want to lead the city, and if you can gain consent of those you want to govern. But without further ado, as I usually say, let's see if we can make radio contact with Frank Urbanic. Frank, are you there?
I'm here.
Frank, he's there. All right, let's see if we can transport you onto the show. Try to beam you in. Let's see if we can ask you to beam in. And we should be able to. There he is. Look at that. We beamed him right onto the show. The transporter's working like a champ out there. Frank Urbanic, thanks for joining us here on 3D Politics.
Hey, thanks for having me again. I'm actually joined by a studio audience here. My spirits are incredibly light, and not only am I a total cynic, but this is the first time we've had like a live studio audience. Thanks to Frank Urbanic, and thank you for bringing a studio live audience. So, wow, how is it that the rich and the famous just get to rule us and then decline to tell us what's in their mind? How can he just decline that and somehow save face, Frank Urbanic? Well, it's a complete disgrace to think that he's not answerable to the people of Oklahoma City. There's a lot of questions, and he deserves to answer those questions.
Let's crank your mic a little bit, or set the mic closer to you to make sure we can hear you. We had technical difficulties right before the show, and so a lot of things got skipped over to make sure we could still come live. I'm sorry for interrupting there, but yeah, the current mayor should of any town, city, should be answering questions in a debate like this.
No, it's outrageous, and I guess he thinks he's better than everybody in our city, to where he just doesn't even have to show up, and clearly he thinks he's untouchable. Well, let's just say that we're going to give him a run for his money, and he should be scared.
Well, that's excellent. From what I understand, the campaign is going very well. People on the outside may not know it, but apparently the campaign is on fire at the grassroots.
Yes, absolutely. As you heard, my volunteers here cheering in the background, they actually didn't know ahead of time about this, but because they are here for phone bank.
Oh.
And
And so they've been making calls all afternoon and evening. And I think we're the only campaign that has people actually doing it. We're the only ones that are going door to door. We're the only ones making calls, putting up signs. You drive around Oklahoma City, you see my signs all over the place. And it's not like I, got my friend who owns a billboard company to throw up a bunch of free billboards. It's that we have to have people actually go and put these things in the ground. So it takes a lot of people doing a lot of great work. So I want to give a hand to
Nice job.
So seriously, thank all of you for doing that, because this campaign would be nowhere without them.
Well, and it's hard to get people to show up and volunteer to do campaign work. It's just extremely difficult. It's hard to get people to work for a wage. It's hard to get people to come and show up. But really, it's message over money, in my opinion. We've got to get to the point where what we're talking about is more important than name recognition. And so you've already, in my opinion, got a proven track record of winning in court. I want to call it 2 wins. Maybe you can correct me, but you already beat Holt 3. Well, okay. So he's got 3 wins. So tell us about the wins you have in court.
Yeah, so I am a man of action, because talk is cheap, but it takes somebody with character to put their money where their mouth is. And that's exactly what I did. In 2020, pro bono, I filed 3 lawsuits against governments that were exceeding the scope of their authority. First was against the city of Guthrie. Succinctly, they outlawed going to church. And so we filed that lawsuit. 4 days later, they rescinded the ordinance that we challenged, and people were able to worship freely without the threat of criminal penalty. So they had First Amendment violations off the charts. Wow. The second lawsuit was against our mayor in Oklahoma City. He was using the Riot Control and Prevention Act to threaten our great workers in this wonderful city with arrest and jail for simply trying to earn a living. So think about this. You work at Waffle House and you serve a waffle or a Coca-Cola at 11:01 p.m. Our current mayor was perfectly fine sending in the police to arrest you and take you to jail. Well, I wasn't, so we filed a lawsuit against him. 11 days later is when we won that lawsuit, because he terminated his phony disaster declaration, never had the authority to do that. And so we were able to remove the threat of arrest from all these workers in Oklahoma City. And then finally, the third one, which is the one that most people know me for because it was statewide, is when the governor issued an executive order doing a similar thing, shutting the bars and restaurants at 11 in November of 2020. We filed a lawsuit, and then the day after we filed the lawsuit, we were able to get every business in this state immediately opened completely. So I would be willing to say that that is the most successful lawsuit against COVID regulations in the entire country. I think what we've done is really the untold story of fighting back against overreaching governments during COVID.
Right. And a seemingly unknown, able to protect everyone's right. We take for granted that we can just run up to Quick Trip, run out to the restaurant, run out and get something to eat real fast. And we take for granted that people are willing to be there, own and operate those businesses at a risk. But we don't realize that that is the livelihood of a lot of people. Don't realize that it's not just the convenience of going to get something that provides people a living. And so you're protecting, putting food in the mouths of babes, as it were.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why I decided to join, because I was decided to run, because I was so disgusted by our mayor's attitude towards such great people in our city. And to this day, they have still denied that what they did by shutting these restaurants and bars down at 11 o'clock was harmful to them. So they believed, supposedly, that when you stop a business from doing business during its peak business time, that doesn't harm them. And so it's an attitude like that that made me want to run. And things like, they tried to portray this lawsuit as, they said it's about late night drinking in bars. Well, so I had some of my plaintiffs there for one of my oral arguments. And I said, they callously like to portray this as late night drinking in bars. And I saw I walk over to one plaintiff. I said, no, this is about the mom who wants to be able to put food on her kid's table. This is about the dad who wants to put a roof over his family's head. This is about the business owner who still needs to pay the creditors for the things that he purchased on credit, still needs to pay the lease. Those bills don't go away. And so it's about letting people live freely and letting them pay their bills and eat and do all those other things. And so all those things, I realized this mayor simply didn't give a fig about so many people and so many businesses in our wonderful city. And they deserve somebody who actually cares about them.
Yeah, if you're an elitist and you live in a bubble where you don't really suffer the problems of everyday ordinaire, then it's easy to get authoritarian and say, and your handlers come and say, "Oh my gosh, there's a pandemic. We better do something." He says, "Well, shut down the stuff then." You know, he has zero effect on him, but he's willing to just shut everybody down authoritarian style. And not to get off topic, but to stay within the authoritarian thing, I noticed that recently Joy Hoffmeister was calling Governor Stitt out for not doing enough during the pandemic. And I was thinking of your case where literally Governor Stitt acted unconstitutionally and unreasonably, and Joy Hoffmeister thinks it wasn't enough. Like what would she do? So we've got this run amok theory of people in power that can just shut the small businesses down. I believe there's an overarching attack on small businesses in America because it's 90% of it's an attack on capitalism. 90% of the capitalism in America is small business, and voila, here it is, more attack on that. What do you think about the concept of that, Frank?
Exactly. Yeah, it shows a lack of respect for the people and the businesses. Let's face it, Mayor Holt wasn't missing a meal during the pandemic. His government paycheck was still coming in every couple of weeks. But for these people who were living paycheck to paycheck, when you completely take that away, that's devastating. People say, oh, you know, essential, non-essential. Well, in my opinion, there's no such thing as an unessential job. Every job is essential, and it's especially essential to that person that's working it. It's vital because without it, they can't do anything else. And so it's this, just like you said, elitist attitude that classifies jobs as essential and non-essential. And as mayor of Oklahoma City, there will be no such thing as an unessential job.
Nice. Yeah, it's like pushing us back into a caste system, which, you know, anybody that had a decent education is older than I am, learned the caste system bad, you know. It's like they want to force us into a situation that some people are allowed and some people aren't. And let's just make that, according to public opinion, okay.
Exactly. Yeah. And so they want this to be normalized, right? And they don't expect people to fight back. And that was clear in what we did, is that none of these people expected to be challenged. And you can tell by the arguments, the feeble arguments that they made in court, they just didn't make any sense. And we called them on it. And you can rest assured that once I'm in any position of authority, that's not going to happen on my watch.
And that is fantastic. You know, I do want to touch on a story from the Oklahoman here from Oklahoma. It says this is a Josh Delaney story, and it's really, I'm interested to know, to close the loop on this. I like how they call it the lockdown era lawsuit. We are still living in a lockdown era. You're listening to the brilliance of Frank Urbanic challenging for Oklahoma City Mayor. We're honored to have him here on 3D Politics right here with Tommy McKay, your verbal Viking. So on to the story from Josh Delaney from the Oklahoman, January 6th. Oklahoma City mayoral candidate drops lockdown era lawsuit against the city. What is this thing? How come? I was wondering why is it dropped?
Yeah, so thank you for bringing that up. I'm glad to have the opportunity to explain it, because we have knuckleheads running around right now saying, oh, I don't know if I can support Frank because he backed down in his lawsuit against the mayor. Here's the deal. We won that lawsuit 11 days after we filed it, when Holt terminated his phony disaster declaration. And so we could have done what we did a couple weeks ago 12 days after we filed the lawsuit. We could have taken our ball and gone home, but we let it stretch out to great expense to me in both time and money, because I did this pro bono and I didn't, have any of these knuckleheads that are running around right now making a GoFundMe site to help finance this. And so we stretched this out for over a year because we wanted to make sure that nothing like this was ever going to happen again. And I think we sent the message that if you do this again, then it's going to be very unpleasant on you. And the things we were able to achieve, we were actually able to get a deposition on Holt allowed by written deposition, and we ultimately decided to not go through with that. But that's out there, and these politicians better understand that if they make these decisions that have, let's say, questionable legal authority, they could potentially go under oath and have to answer a question, because it's not like in a debate where he can lie all over the place. There's no consequences. If you do a deposition, you're swearing under oath that what you say is true. And so I think the message got across loud and clear.
Yeah, and at least let's hope. I mean, I always worry that we live in this episode of arbitrary enforcement. It's like a police state, because it's not. We're living in this law. It's not law. It's who you know and if you're in the clique or not. And so hopefully what you're doing has set precedent that other people like you, like-minded freedom fighters, can look at your lawsuit and draw from that. Is that something that can happen?
Absolutely. Well, we send a message that there's at least one person who isn't going to just completely accept what's going on, that there will be some skepticism when government officials start shutting businesses down and potentially acting outside the scope of their authority. And people will be doing some research on these things. So they should think twice before they act, and they better be darn sure that they're acting lawfully. And with regards to the governor, it's not and that lawsuit's actually still going on. It's on appeal, but
Okay.
It's nothing personal with him. Obviously, I have a disagreement, but let's just say he was very badly advised. I dealt with the people, and I don't even know if any of them are there anymore, but he was very badly advised. And in this sense, I actually feel sorry for him.
I was running for governor or mayor. I'm not sure. Frank Urbanic.
They put him out there to twist in the wind, basically. And
yeah. Well, he has to have legal advice. And if they gave him bad legal advice, you're the guy that could tell.
Yeah, they should not have set him up like that for failure, basically.
Well, the same thing's happening. You've sparked me in the military thing. They've said that the Biden administration has told the Stitt people that his legal issues are off the mark. Somehow they don't apply. It's the wrong COVID that they've sued against. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Right. They're saying that for the National Guard, right? Is this
right?
Right. They're saying that it still falls under the national control, even though it's the Guard members, when they're not activated, are under the control of the governor.
Okay. Hey, before we get too much down the lane here, and again, I appreciate you share everybody your views on how you're going to govern the city. Tell them how to find you, how to contact you, and how to support your campaign.
Yeah, so frankurbanic.com. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for people, and you can donate there. So there's no better way, other than, of course, voting for me, to help my campaign than to donate, because campaigns are not cheap and it's not easy to get money. People generally don't like to give that up, but it's for a good cause. You're making an investment in the future of Oklahoma City and in liberty. This is a campaign of liberty, and it will go far. We don't have any paid campaign consultants, so 100% of any money that's donated to the campaign actually goes to help the campaign.
Yeah, and for me, the thing you're just making me think about, the people that you protected mainly were the people that were mainly targeted. That was restaurants, bar and grill. And so it's just these are the people that operate on a 25 to 33% margin of profit anyway. And so they're barely staying alive. And if people like to tip their waiter or waitress because they think it's the right thing to do, supporting Frank Urbanic is like tipping your waiter or waitress at the front end of the bar and grill or restaurant you go to.
Exactly. And don't think, well, I can't give $100 or $1,000. So I'm going to give zero. Hey, look, any amount is appreciated. I had somebody pull out their wallet, gave me the last $2 in their wallet because he believed so deeply in what we were doing and wanted to help us out in whatever capacity he could. And so it's things like that honestly meant a lot more to me than some of the other people who, let's say had to twist their arms for $100. So
yeah, it's the story of the widow's mite. Let's remind everybody, Frank Urbanic is an Oklahoma City criminal defense attorney, U.S. Air Force combat veteran, served 4 deployments in Afghanistan and Iraq. Now it says here in this article that you've earned the rank of major, but you're actually lieutenant colonel. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. I got promoted in October.
Well, there you go. And so he should have known that, this Matt Patterson or Trace Savage, because this was in December 8th, but even I had to be corrected. Way to go. People don't understand what kind of man it takes to not only run for mayor, get volunteers, but also become lieutenant colonel and volunteer your time in the Air Force. It's amazing what you do. And, we're just blessed to have a guy like you on the show. And then also what you're doing to fight for people in Oklahoma City. What I fear is that there are so many sheep out there that aren't paying attention to what we're doing here on our show and what's going on in the bigger picture. And when they step out there, they just have name recognition and they don't realize the ins and outs of the story. How do we beat back this complacency with the viewers, listeners, and voters who aren't tuned in yet? How do we get the word out there?
Well, because I'm a man of action and I have substance. Okay. I'm not running around saying, hey, vote for me because of my last name. There's literally a candidate. That's that person's platform. And so, I have substance. I've done things that have actually affected our community in a positive way. I mean, my God, I had, we opened up every restaurant, bar, any business that served food or beverages after 11 p.m. We completely opened them up across the entire state. And there's no other candidate that comes anywhere close to that. In fact, one of the candidates was fighting me in that effort to keep them closed. And that's, of course, the incumbent. And it's really sick that he's running around touting, oh, hey, look at this low unemployment rate. And I posted on Facebook, I go, well, it's low despite you. You fought us to keep those businesses closed. And but for you, but for us, that unemployment rate would be much higher. So it's just outrageous.
Okay, so I want to take you to task a little bit on this non-doc incumbent mayors face challengers in OKC, Norman, and Midwest City. It's from Wednesday, December 8th of last year. Matt Patterson, Archibald Brown, Trace Savage. In my opinion, they take a couple of shots at you that are, connotatively negative. I don't know you to be a guy that's mad at the homeless, but you're not interested in government offering eleemosynary spending. That is charity, and from the bureaucracy is not really charity. It's called eleemosynary spendings. But tell us about any programs that serve as a magnet for the homeless. What are we talking about?
Yeah, so we need to do a study and figure out if there are any programs or if there's anything that is drawing them, let's say, here versus another city. Why are they coming here and not Tulsa? Why are they coming here and not Little Rock, right? Like, what is there something about Oklahoma City specifically that's causing them to come here? I don't know specifically anything like that. But if there is, we need to figure it out and look at that, because I look at some of the aspect of homelessness as pushes and pulls, right? We are hearing, and there's some news reports that the homeless are getting paid and getting a one-way bus ticket to come here. And so we need to find that out and call out those cities that are doing that. And then is there a pull? Are there things that are drawing them here? And but beyond that, the homeless problem, as I'm sure you understand, is very complicated. But in general, my approach is a best practices approach. We're going to look at the cities that have been successful in combating homelessness and copy them. And one place that we're looking at is Houston. In, I believe, 9 years, they have decreased their homeless population by 50% or over 50%. They have what they call a housing first approach, basically, where they drop the barriers to get into housing so that once they get in there, they are able to better work on the other issues such as mental illness and substance abuse. So, and they have a place to go that's safe, because I've actually gone and talked to homeless people and they're saying they don't feel safe at these shelters. And so they don't go to those shelters where, well, if it's a place where they can put their stuff and not be in fear of getting assaulted or robbed, then that is one thing that they can get taken care of. And then the providers can address those other issues. But look, we're not going to be able to arrest our way out of this problem. You talk to any police officer, they're not arrested for just being out there. And me having been done work as a public defender, I've represented these people, and they often don't mind getting arrested. They get a place to stay that is safer than a shelter, and they get a meal as bad as it is. But you arrest a homeless person and you find them. Well, they're never going to be able to pay that anyways. So, and then what do? You have them sit out the time in jail. So now you're actually costing taxpayers more money. And so it's not as simple as that. But here's the deal. I have my platform on a variety of issues posted online. And of course, I can't go into great detail on every single one of them, but I've had this stuff posted since September. I'm the only candidate, not the only candidate, but I am, there's another candidate, let's just say, that hasn't posted any platform. And it's completely disgraceful that somebody would be running for office and doesn't even want to let people know what she wants to do or what her ideas are.
Well, have you heard any attacks on you for not having any experience? Because in my clearly that's got me bothered. But I mean, you have experience in the realm of these legal issues that govern bars and restaurants, and you're the winner in those areas against Holt. So, I mean, is there anybody arguing that you don't have the experience to be mayor?
Well, I believe that's what our current mayor has alleged, and probably will be some attack on me. He thinks his great selling point is, I've been in government my entire adult life, and he was actually elected to student council, I believe vice president, his 6th grade year, been running for office ever since. And I just don't think that, and he's proud of this, he's bragging about it. And I think most people, when they hear that stuff, they just want to take a shower. And this is not how our system's supposed to work, where you have one person in politics their whole life. They have no idea how the free market works because they haven't had to live in the free market. I've been in the military, and I have my own small business, a law firm. I've employed people, and I've bought things. I've sold my services, and I've had to make payroll, had to make sure I earned enough to pay not only my bills, but to feed my family. And so I've been out there in the economy doing things. I've had to live under the rules that he has been making. And he simply hasn't had to, living on his government paycheck and for the other job that he has, the investment firm, supposedly.
Well, it's always easy for the incumbent to say you can't do my job. Because you've never been here, and yet, it's very cringy, those things you say, basically to a lot of outsiders, they say, or to the non-compliant, unorthodox, the people who suck up to get elected all through their entire career. It is cringy. It's not cringy if you don't act like a totalitarian later. But when you go around sweeping the broad sword of totalitarianism, that creates the problem. We're going to send you back down to the planet surface and run our PSA. We'll bring you right back in. Stay tuned to listen to more Frank Urbanic right after this break.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two, and another, 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 and another. Could be the most expensive night of your life.
The American Constitutional Republic. Affairs of state in Oklahoma. The beliefs, principles, opinions, and views of people just like me. This is 3D Politics. Featuring your Verbal Viking host, Tommy McKay, right here. Email me, verbalviking@gmail.com. Find me at Tommy McKay, Facebook and Twitter. Tonight, we've got the amazing Frank Urbanic. There are heroes living right amongst us that you've never met, and he's one of them. Let's just make sure that we can hear him from the planet's surface. Frank, are you there?
I'm here.
There he is. All right, we're going to see if we can once again beam him in from the planet's surface. This is the fun part for me. Right here, I get experts, and then I get to do this. There he is, Frank Urbanic, beamed in from the planet's surface. We appreciate you once again for being here at the top of the bottom of the hour. Tell them where to find you, website, etc.
FrankUrbanic.com. I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. So it's my first name and last name.com.
That'll work. Wow, that's easy math. Okay, so we were just on the heels of me pressing you about being mad at the homeless. You clearly not mad at the homeless, but you're gonna have a plan to deal with the homeless. You're not gonna just shun them, correct?
Correct, right.
Okay.
Under this current mayor, the homeless population has increased. And so that's one thing you have to look at is why would that change in another 4 years? It's clearly just going to continue that trend. And so something definitely needs to happen. And like I said, we need to look at these best practices.
Okay, yeah, you're looking at a spike. You're not just like, hey, man, I just decided I'm going to be mad at the homeless. You're like, for some reason, there's a spike, and you want, as mayor, to find out why is there a spike in need of the homeless in our city?
Well, so in that non-doc article, the only policy position they pulled from my website was about homelessness. I list probably a dozen things, my position, all these issues, things that I want to do. And that was the only one they pulled anything from. So yeah, there's not I don't have some special, I don't know, thing out there about it's just that's all that they pulled from. So I guess it makes it seem like that's the only thing that I'm talking about.
Well, that's why I bring it up, is because that's why I said early in the show, talking about this is essentially, I know that the Oklahoman has been friendly to you, and they're not tearing you apart here, but the connotation is clearly on the negative side. Like you said, they omitted a lot of policy issues that are more pertinent to people that vote and spend money than the homeless that are begging. And then infrastructure, streets, and so again, they quote you, end liberal fantasy projects. To any liberal, they're like, see, he doesn't like my unicorn structure. So, I mean, again, this is a negative connotation from the non-doc guys, but what you're saying here is let's bring some reality to our spending, i.e. liberal fantasy projects. You want to tell me about that?
Oh, exactly. So we have some breaking news here. We did an open.
Okay, good.
We did we did an open records request and on the streetcar, and for the 12 months ending, I believe in July of last year, give or take a month. But the streetcar received $56,000 in revenues from the fares. Okay, and I'm glad you're sitting down. I hope you're sitting down
I'm short.
because because the city subsidy from the general fund was $4.6 million. So we're subsidizing this thing almost $5 million a year for something that people simply don't write. Obviously, they don't write it because 50 something $1,000 in fares in an entire year. And so, no, it's outrageous. And my plan is to get rid of the streetcars and spend that money elsewhere on things that people actually use and care about, like our roads.
Now, so you're a guy that lives right there and you know the real inside business. You know how the establishment promotes their darling poster child, the incumbent. And so they say, oh, people love that thing that you say they hate.
No, they don't. I've talked to a lot of people, and I have talked to some that like them, but it's like 98% of the people don't like them, think they're ridiculous. And for the couple, I'm like, look, I get that you like it, but you can't have the rest of us footing the bill for something that you and really just a few other people like or care about, and maybe, and still probably rarely ride.
It's like a decoration.
But back to the homeless just real quick, is that is something that I hear a lot about because of the increased population. And so people do want action to be taken on the homeless. And
interesting.
Along those lines, I know you were asking me last time about some task forces, and I don't know if you want to get into that now. But.
Yeah, I'm big on task forces because I think that's what they fear from a newcomer, is that you'll bring new cliques because it's who you know, not what you know. And I know that you get to appoint 379 people if you become mayor.
Yeah. So did you say you want to hear the task?
Yes, I do. I'm big on task force. Sorry. That's me going off like a pop bottle rocket. All right.
Okay. So yeah, we want to do a task force first on human trafficking. We're a hub for human trafficking, and we want to take care of that issue and attack it. And to my knowledge, our current mayor and nobody else that's running for mayor has substantively addressed that issue. So no, absolutely. I think a task force on human trafficking is absolutely warranted, because clearly this affects the most vulnerable people in our society, because you have children involved in that, women, and they're being abused in just horrific ways. So that's one of the two that I have come up with since I talked to you last.
Yeah, because I was pressing you earlier in our discussions about you running for mayor and me having run for mayor in Tulsa less successfully than you're doing now in Oklahoma City. And yet what I learned in my process was they really didn't fear me not knowing what I would do. What they feared was who would I appoint to be on boards, trusts, and commissions. And so if you're going to have a task force that's going to look at human trafficking, you're the team captain on the playground. Who are you going to pick to run your task force?
There's a gentleman, Tom McKay. I don't know if you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he'll run it like a totalitarian. That's what he'll run it like. But I mean, so, this is what I think this is why I press for task forces, is because people want to see the team captain who's, you were on the playground, and I'm not demeaning you. I've learned the hard way. There's a lot of sheep out there. And I thought everybody would push back on these masks. But the thing is, people all they have to do is crush the influencers and the pilot fish, and the totalitarians win. They don't have to beat all of us. And usually our side says, well, there's more of us than there are of them. But it doesn't matter, because most of us sit down and obey. Only some of us, like you, will stand up and fight. And so people want to know, the sheep want to know, when Frank Urbanic is in charge and he picks a task force, who will he pick as one of his team leaders?
Well,
and maybe you don't have that person. We didn't talk about it. I didn't, this is what I'm saying is I think the public needs to know other people that you will put in charge of task forces when you make them happen. What's the other task force that you're going to do besides the human trafficking?
Yeah. So, and this one I think is interesting because it brings together law enforcement and a business that quite frankly has been illegal for a while, is the marijuana industry. What I've been hearing from not only law enforcement but people in that industry is that our industry is not able to thrive because there's a lot of illegal grows and diversion. So we need to crack down on that, and there should be a task force aimed at doing that, so that the people who are doing it the right way, they can actually make money. Because I think, as time goes on, it becomes a more important part of our economy. We can clearly see the trend for that issue, not only in this country but in this state. And this is an industry that needs to be protected by law enforcement, which they actually are. I talked to a dispensary owner and I said, hey, have anybody ever, broken in, or your alarm going? Yeah, the OCPD. Yeah, they've had to show up. And I go, well, how did they treat you, knowing that, literally just a couple of years ago, they would have been hauling you off in handcuffs.
Oh, shush.
And he said, you know what? They were completely professional, and they treated it just like it was any other business.
Nice.
They were selling, rolls of toilet paper. They would have treated them the same way. And I was very impressed to hear that. So no, our police are acting with professionalism and responding in a timely manner, just like they would everywhere else. But no, these dispensaries are being broken into, and they're having a hard time making money, the ones that are doing it the right way. And we need to support them.
You can find 3D video archives on YouTube, right out there on 3D Politics on YouTube. And we've had Jed Green with Orca, and we've had Chip Paul from New Pharma. And both of those discussions about the marijuana industry, it is exploded and spiked in Oklahoma. We're overtaking Colorado, almost everybody, in leading the way of figuring out this new territory of freedom. And so it is great that in that area of task forcing, and that you look at it as protecting the industry, and somebody in a leadership position of Oklahoma City mayor could do a lot to help Oklahoma survive and benefit from the explosion of that industry. What else about that?
There's not much more to it other than we just need to make sure that the people who are doing things the right way, they're able to actually have a business that they can make money at. And the people who are not doing it the right way, that needs to be taken care of.
Right. So to straighten it up and make the issue cleanly divided and paying in the appropriate areas as it should. So Frank, tell us, what have you got planned for the upcoming? Now, I know what I wanted to ask you was, you just had an event recently. Tell me about some event you just did Friday or Saturday night. Everybody came out to the some place.
So we had an event Thursday at night. We had dinner at Little Mike's Burgers. Friday.
No, it's this Boot Scoot place.
Right. Oh, the Cowboy Ranch.
Cowboy Ranch. What happened at the Cowboy Ranch?
No, it was one of many events. So that was the third event in a row, the third day in a row that we had an event. And what that shows is we're doing something called having a campaign. All right. We're actually running a real campaign. We're not a Potemkin campaign like certainly somebody else in this race is running.
Right.
But no, we're going out, we're meeting people. I'm putting myself out there and being subjected to questions on the spot. And so, of course, you have to think clearly because not everything is something that that has come up before. And so, no, we're meeting people, putting ourselves out there, and the campaign is just growing momentum every day. I have more and more people calling me and submitting requests through the website to volunteer, wanting signs of their
Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Frank Urbanic running for Oklahoma City mayor. I got to say that thank goodness that you've already got experience in the courts defeating Holt, and we can all be rest assured that you'll be able to handle the office securely when you get in there. Now, how important is a mayor to the national, state, and national issues, and how do you plan to deal with those? What do you foresee as those issues, and how do you plan to deal with them as mayor?
Yeah, and that's a great point you bring up, because this is something that I bring up on the stump, is that our current mayor, he's technically a Republican, but he's the worst kind of Republican because he signs on to the liberal agenda, and the Biden administration uses him as a way of calling their policies bipartisan. So he'll sign on to these letters agreeing with the various things they want to do. And when they passed that supposed infrastructure bill recently, he was out there tweeting up a storm saying how it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. Meanwhile, every member of the Oklahoma delegation voted against it. And so that shows you where he stands. And so I say that, hey, he's up there palling around with Joe Biden. Well, when Donald Trump becomes president again, I look forward to palling around with him, promoting Oklahoma conservative values.
So, and again, what do you know about how are you going to reach out to Stitt? And then, because I see more clearly how it is that the Stitt interacts with the national thing, but how does the mayor connect to Stitt? How do you hit the ground running with Stitt day one?
Well, look, I'd love to have a conversation with him. Before we filed that lawsuit against him, we actually turned in 2 letters. We were in the media, front page of the Oklahoman, and between myself and the plaintiffs every couple of days for about a couple of weeks, because I did not want to file that lawsuit, especially after filing the one against Oklahoma City a couple of weeks before that. It's a lot of work, and I'm not getting paid for it. And so I would love to finally sit down and have a conversation with him about it, and hopefully we can iron out some things that happened over the last year and a half, and be on the same page and move on, and make Oklahoma and Oklahoma City a better place, and give businesses that reassurance as to what can and can't happen during an emergency.
Wow, yeah, because investment in restaurant, you're going to invest in a restaurant, maybe not, if they're going to shut you down. They'll blame all things on COVID as best they can. How do you, what's your position? Now, I chided G.T. Bynum in 2016 for he suggested in his campaign he's going to get all involved in school politics. And I was saying, pick your battle, man. You're either going to be in school government or you're going to be in city municipal government. And so I'm not asking you to make that, contradiction in your thing, but where are you on schools in Oklahoma, the education system? What can you do as mayor in Oklahoma City to clean up? There's a straight up racket, as far as I'm concerned, in the cafeteria with the lunch lady. I mean, the lunch lady gets paid by pieces of paper turned into the feds, not by lunches served. It's insane. And who's your guy down there? Not your guy. I say, who am I? Mean to you now? Who is the guy down there? McDaniel. He's the Oklahoma City superintendent or something. Is it McDaniel?
So the school districts are independent, and this is a common misconception, because I get asked this a lot. Well, what are you going to do with education? And
okay.
school board and the state, they set the agenda, and really all a city government has anything to do with is like zoning issues and things dealing with land. But I have a voice, I have a megaphone, I can certainly make my opinion heard. I've been an activist for conservative principles, and one of the things I say when I'm meeting people, I say, hey, I believe that parents should be able to control the healthcare and education of their children. And this is not an issue that's new to me. When they shut down the schools, and Edmond Public Schools was just 2 days a week on an AB schedule, my wife and I were out there consistently with other Edmond Public School parents. We were protesting at the school board, at school board meetings. We were at a Capitol rally, and I say, hey, we've been doing this for over a year, I guess a year and a half by now. I don't remember seeing any of the other candidates out there. And the mayor, what was his opinion on that? Did he want schools open back up fully? He was radio silent on that. And so I think that's an issue that really resonates with parents, is how I have been out there. I've been in the trenches actually advocating and working for these things, whereas other people were either silent or not doing anything.
Man, I simply don't know how you do it all. You must have 2 capes and get one dry cleaned while you're flying around in the other. That's fine. So you got 2 kids. Tell us a little bit about your family. You got a couple of kids. What do you got? Kids and a wife, et cetera. What do you got?
Well, how do I do it? Well, I do it because of my wife. During this campaign, almost every day she's out there doing something, whether it's going door to door or dropping off signs. So the amount of work she's done is incredible. And so certainly a lot of credit to her. But no, I have 3 kids, 2 twin girls, they're 10 years old, and my son is 8. And how this ties into the schools is that one of the twin girls, she's special needs, she's on the autism spectrum. And so in, I guess, the spring of 2020, when they went to AB, and so we gave them the choice of, hey, do you want to, we pulled them out. We tried to pull all 3 kids out, put them into private school.
Right.
Yet we could only pull 2 of them out. Our special needs kid could not get out of public school, and she was still going to school just 2 days a week. And certainly my wife she's not a teacher and not a special needs teacher.
Hold on. Now you mean from a technicality, she was unable to unenroll?
She was unable to get into a private school because she was
because of her situation. Okay.
So my point is that the kids who are most vulnerable and most in need of being in school and the attention, those are the ones that are in that prison and couldn't get out, and they were keeping her at 2 days a week. And it was just it was ridiculous and really sad to see how that affected her so much worse than all the other kids. But no, we gave the other 2 a choice as to whether they wanted to stay in private school. My son decided to stay, and the other daughter wanted to be back at school with her twin sister. And
Right.
So we definitely have experienced many aspects of our school system, and let's just say that we have an increased respect for homeschoolers because we without our not by our own choice became homeschool parents, and we quickly realized that the dynamics are very different when it's you teaching your kids rather than somebody else.
Right. Man of action, Frank Urbanic, running for Oklahoma City Mayor. We got about 5 minutes left. Let's make sure to remind them all your main talking points, where to find you, how to support you, and whatever your parting shots and leaving comments are before we get out of here. Once again, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Urbanic, running for Oklahoma City Mayor. Frank Urbanic, tell us what else you got on the way out.
Yeah, so again, website for donations and volunteer. We kindly ask you to do both frankurbanic.com, but please also visit my Facebook page, which unsurprisingly is facebook.com/Frank Urbanic.
Wow.
Or you can search for me. But no, we put all our upcoming events. We actually have an event on the 20th. We call it Diapers for Dads. This is
Nice.
a bipartisan charitable competition. So I'm competing as a Republican against the Libertarian gubernatorial candidate, Natalie Bruno, and Joe Lewis, a Democrat running for state house. And it's a good natured competition. We're saying, hey, bring some diapers to Stone Sisters Pizza here in Oklahoma City, and the candidate that has the most diapers at the end gets bragging rights. And we're going to have dads show up on the 20th. So it's a 30-day diaper drive. And so the 20th is the last day, and we're going to give them out to dads. And the whole point of this is to say, hey, you know what? We can work together on things that we agree with. And all of us agree that we can be better off when it's the community helping each other. We don't need the government taking money from you, Tom McKay, to buy diapers for somebody else. Whoever wants to do that can do it on their own. So no, it's a really fun event, and we're so happy to be involved in that. That's on the 20th. And then on the 21st, we're having dinner at San Marcos Mexican restaurant off 59th. Then on Sunday, we're going to Frosted Mug off Meridian. We're going to have dinner there. So no, we're having all sorts of events. And this campaign is of, by, and for the real people. We had a major endorsement last week. Her name's Kim Shearer. And
who is Kim Shearer?
Hey, that's the point, is that, I go through this checklist. I say, hey, you love your country, you love the state, you love the city, right? And you're not a celebrity, you're not a politician, you're not a socialite. You're just a regular person, right? Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. I'm endorsed by the regular people, because that's what this campaign is about. We've helped so many regular people. We're not doing this for the wealthy. We're not doing this for the politically connected, for the famous people. We're doing this for the people who all they want to do is go to work, get their work done, go home, be with their family, earn enough money to pay for what they need to get, hopefully have a little bit left over, and be safe throughout all of that, and get the government out of their way.
Fantastic. Man of action, Frank Urbanic. Wow, I don't know what else to say. Well, when is the election? And let's make sure that everybody gets out to vote for you.
Yes, the most important thing, right? So election day is February 8th. And early voting is February 3rd and 4th, with mail-in voting going on right now. And I've been making phone calls. People have been calling me, and they've told me they've already mailed in their ballots for me. So I am just thrilled to hear that. It's always, of course, great to hear that. But no, people can mail in their ballots right now. And we are encouraging people to do early voting of some sort if you feel comfortable mailing it in. Or if you do it in person, definitely do that, because we all know what the weather is like here in Oklahoma in February. I'd hate to have an ice storm hit on February 7th and all of Holt's voters mailed their votes in and my voters did not, and they can't get to the polls.
Right. Well, hopefully we won't have that problem. But once again, Frank Urbanic, go find him, frankurbanic.com, and be sure and donate before the election. And Frank, thank you once again, not only for the work you do and the fighting for freedom for everybody, but for running your campaign and getting out there and making yourself vulnerable for the fight out there.
Thank you very much. You've had me on many times, and I'm always delighted to be on. We always have a great interaction, and so I really appreciate you let me come on so many times.
Well, I'm proud of you, vicariously loving what you're doing and supporting and praying for you. So good luck out there, and we'll have you back on as soon as we can to find out the follow-up after the election. So thanks again, Frank Urbanic. We're gonna beam you out at this point, like I always like to do. Let's see how it works here. There he goes. Thank you, Frank. Wow, Frank Urbanic running for Oklahoma City mayor right out there. This guy does it all, and amazingly so. Wife, kids, defender of a public defender. This guy remembers that in America, you are innocent until proven guilty and not the other way around. So let's get out of here as quickly as we can and make sure that you get out. If you are in the Oklahoma City area, make sure that you get out to vote for Frank Urbanic on February 8th. And if you are not in the Oklahoma City area, find Frank Urbanic at frankurbanic.com and send him a little cash, a little donation. And otherwise, let's help that man get elected so he can protect everybody in Oklahoma. Tommy McKay here. We're going to have another best of coming up next week. It's amazing what we can do in a compilation. We'll see you guys next week.